Hi, it's Therese from Lostinpaper, and I am so excited to be the creative guest this month at WOW. And I'm going to be using some of their fun products and making 2 cards to share with you today. Starting with some of their embossing ink. This is called Clear Ultra Slow Drying Ink, and it is just that. It actually, you've got plenty of time to stamp out your images or add the ink and then add your embossing powder, that you don't have to rush. It actually is quite slow drying. So I've stamped out this ice cream image twice from Avery Elle. It's from a set called Sweetest, and I am using some Bristol Smooth cardstock here, and the embossing powder I've got, now this is, they have so many different kinds, but this is the opaque bright white, and it's a super fine embossing powder. So this one will give you really fine details with your stamp. So if you've got a sentiment that has a really fine font, this is the perfect choice. So WOW have their own heat tool which has 2 speed settings. So it's like a dual heat one. You can actually use it for heat embossing, but you can also use it for drying things like paint, glue, ink, whatever you want. And I've been using this tool for a little while now, just getting a feel for it and seeing what I think, and I do really like it. I'm actually really impressed. I never thought that I would use the low heat as much as I do, and I know that there are some people that have 2 heat tools, one for drying and one for heat embossing. So this just means one less product in your room. You got like 2 tools in one, which has been awesome for me because I've actually started doing a lot more painting than I used to, or using watercolors and watercolor brush markers and things. So this just speeds up the heating process without, or should I say the drying process, without adding a lot more air and heat and less warping. So I'm doing a emboss resist technique today, and this just basically means that I've heat embossed my image, and by painting over top, the actual embossed image will resist the paint. So that will just makes it easy for a start, and you can actually see the image through as you paint over top. I have used some Catherine Pooler inks here to paint with. They're a dye-based ink, and they paint beautifully, just in case you've never tried with them before. I do find that if I use a cardstock like the Bristol Smooth cardstock, it does work better than just using a normal, like a normal there's such a thing as a normal cardstock, but you could easily use like a watercolor cardstock as well. I am trying to get a little bit better with just letting my colors sort of sit, but I still play. I still do. I still can't help myself. So I did colour both of my ice creams. The second one I made as a blue cone, and I'm going to be using one of these on each of my cards. So I'm starting with my pink ice cream card, and what I'm doing here is I'm using this is an embossing ink pad. It's a refill conditioner, and it's also what they call a freestyle tool from WOW, and I'm having heaps of fun with this. It's got a metal ball on the end, so you can actually use this to add ink to your ultra slow drying ink pad when it becomes a bit dry, but you can also use it on your card. So I've got a stencil here. It's from Altenew. It's a bubble wrap stencil, and basically I just tacked it down in place over the cardstock with some low tack tape, and then used the freestyle tool to draw within the stencil. Now, you wouldn't be able to do this with any other tool that I know of. Maybe I don't know. Like you could probably, no. There's nothing on the market that you could use that would do this, that I've seen anyway. I have added some, now this is a really fun, it's an embossing glitter, and it's called Coconut Ice. So I've added that over the whole panel, and then I'm just heat embossing that. So it does have that glitter within it as well. My sentiment, I want to kind of do an ombre style, so I've grabbed my Catherine Pooler inks again. So this is the same color, that way I can know that my colors are going to match, because it's the same color that I painted with the ice cream with. And I'm just blending on some ink to create sort of a darker base on my cardstock, and then I can actually add this is from Catherine Puller as well, it's called Sweet. It's a really nice dye, a sentiment dye, and I'm just making sure that there's going to be some white at the top of the word and then some pink at the bottom, and sort of blend it up. I think that did turn out really sweet. And here I'm just using the low speed of the heat tool just to make sure that the ink's dry before I add some more embossing ink from the ink pad refill. And I'm just using, because it's got that rollerball at the end, I can just add the embossing ink directly to the top of the sentiment, and then I've added some more coconut ice glitter embossing powder, and then I can just heat set that. And that just gives me a glittery finish to the top of my sentiment, which I thought was really sweet. I am layering this up a few times. I think I did 4 in total, just to give some depth to the sentiment. I don't want it to be all wobbly on the front of the card, and I don't want it to be sitting flat, so that's just going to help that pop up off the front of my card. And then I did also cut my panel down with my bespoke background panel, and I'm just adding that to the front of a top fold card with some fun foam on the back, and then I can use some matte medium. I do like to use like a liquid glue because I am adhering this over embossed images, I suppose, the circles, and I want to make sure that it's going to hold. And I've just popped up the ice cream as well. I did fussy cut that out. And I'm using my grid mat here to make sure that everything's nice and straight as well. And I also stamped out the word friend from the same stamp set in some pale pink ink. I think it was the It's a Girl. And I'm just adhering that over top of my die cut sentiment. So I'm going to start working on my second card now. And this is my blue ice cream. I decided to make a blue background, and this one's a little bit different. I have actually used some stamp masking paper, and this is some Nina cardstock. It's the 80 £, and what I've done here is create some wide stripes, and I've actually masked off the areas that I want to be white, and I'm actually blending out an ombre style background with a couple of the blue inks using my blender brushes. And I thought it'd be fun to create like some more background paper, another design paper, but this one I want to have texture, but a little bit different to the other one. So I want all of these stripes to have texture, but I didn't want them to be sort of shiny and glossy. So WOW have a product called Clear Matte Dull, which is actually a embossing powder that has like a dull finish. It's not glossy. And I thought that'd be really fun to have these wide blue stripes, but if you touch them, they're actually embossed, but they're not shiny. So I'm just peeling away my stripes now, my pieces of stamp masking paper, after I added the embossing ink. And then I can just add this embossing powder, which is and that's one of the best things about WOW is they have such a variety of powders. They've got like just the regular styles, super fine glitter, metallic, transparent. There's just so much. And I haven't ever seen an embossing powder like this one before, so I thought it'd be really fun to try it. And I'm really excited with how it turned out. And it is hard to see in the photos, but I did try and get one. These embossing powders too, you might notice I've been using coffee filters to actually catch the powder. And that's because they come with an anti-static property within the actual tub. So I mean, I usually have stored my embossing powder in a plastic tub, but that's going to actually make it worse for the WOW embossing powders because you lose that fantastic property about them. So you're actually better off to Either pour it into a coffee filter or into a piece of paper. If you want to use a spoon, then use a metal spoon. Then you're not going to affect those anti-static properties. And let's face it, you don't want bits of embossing powder all over your project. So I've cut my panel down and added a sentiment, which is from the Cake Love Altenew set, adhered it to the front of a top fold card, and then all I had to do was actually pop up my little ice cream. And hopefully in this photo here you might be able to see that matte finish. Isn't that fun? I hope you've been inspired to get out your wow products and have some fun. Till next time, happy paper crafting. Bye.